Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be going through all of the details from the quarterly financial results. We're going to be talking about how many subscribers they got and why they've been able to do that. We're also going to be talking about the international rollout plans and also the future of Disney Plus Premier Access. And also, our main topic really I want to talk about is Bob Chapek's talk about the bundle not being ideal. Plus, we're going to be sharing our thoughts on a number of this week's new releases, including Marvel's What If, Star Wars The Bad Batch finale. James will be telling us his thoughts about Free Guy. Plus, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Walking Dead. Plus, loads more. But before we go any further, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button either on YouTube or on the audio platforms. You can also go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Favorite, become a member of our subscription service of the email to do that. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. So that's that side of things. You can also support us through Patreon and also on YouTube channel members, which helps pay the bills, keeps all the lights on and everything running. And you can become a member from as little as $2 a month. You get early access to some content. You also get to take part in the weekly Q&A. And also, as I said, you get a little shout out. So if you're in the following tier in the $5 and above, so big hello to Robert, J Blue. We've also got Raphael. My VCR still works. Abina, Joshua, Adam, Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, and Sarah. While over on the Patreons, we have a huge thank you goes to Sarah. And also to Andrew, Jacob, Caleb, Red Mars Man, Aero G, Andrew, Cody, Darren at the Juice, Lauren, and James. So thank you very much for all of your support. Really makes a massive difference, as I said, in making sure that we can pay the bills and keep this thing going. So James, let's jump in. It's been a really busy week with the quarterly results. Just a lot. So what's kind of jumped out at you from this past week with all the news? Because there was also the Disney Plus Day, which I forgot to mention at the top. So let's start with that one.
Well,
the Disney Plus Day.
Disney Plus Day is coming up, right?
Yes.
It has been a very busy week, so I'm trying to remember where the various announcements.
Yes.
But Disney Plus Day, although they call it Disney Plus Day, it's really more of an investor call from the sound.
It's happening on November the 12th, which is the 1 year or the 2 year anniversary of Disney Plus launching, and they said it's going to be a cross promotional event, which AKA means probably they're going to be promoting it at the theme parks, promoting it on all the social medias, the YouTube channels, across every channel that they've got. They've also said there'll be some announcements, and there's going to be lots of content arriving on that day, including the brand new Home Sweet Home Alone movie, and Jungle Cruise will be arriving on that same day because it is a Friday. And there's also going to be some other stuff. So they kind of put this out there. It's kind of sounding a little bit like an Investors Day from last year. However, and I've been saying this all week, please just remember the last live stream that they put on last couple of weeks ago, the streamer event, where they showed us running water for 4 hours straight and then gave us a trailer for just Batista rolling around in a boat watching Loki on his tablet. So from that point on, I very much kind of feel like everyone just needs to just dial it back a little bit, pull it back. Just don't, if you were, I honestly I'm not expecting the Investor Day level that we had last year, because that was like a 4 hour just like bing, bang, boom, bang, bing, bang, boom. Just, I got to be honest, the Investors Day event is actually a really bad name for it. I do think Disney Plus Day is actually better in order to get it out there. And also then they're not kind of jumping in on all the movie side of things as well. But I'm also very much aware of National Streaming Day that they did earlier this year, which was, here's an announcement every half an hour for the rest of the day. Here's an announcement at this hour. It's a poster. So it was just like, I think I've been burned a couple of times this year already with this one.
Yeah, but the difference there is, of course, that National Streaming Day is just some kind of arbitrary day that got picked not by Disney, but honestly, I don't even know who picked when National Streaming. So it's nice that they actually acknowledged it at all, even if it was, here's a poster, here's a tweet about a show that you already know about with no additional details. Whereas Disney Plus Day is like theirs. It's their decision. It's their marketing, basically. So keep expectations tempered. You never really know what you're going to get, but it wouldn't surprise me if we got a decent number of trailers for stuff coming up for 2022. At the very least, maybe a timeline of some of the major Star Wars and Marvel titles, because this year, of course, has been packed with Marvel, and all the announcements are still stuff coming out this year. We're still learning about What If, even though that just started, and of course the remaining shows and Shang-Chi. But we don't know we know what's coming in 2022, but we don't have much information about it. And that's true for Star Wars as well. They ended The Mandalorian season 2 with that big list of titles that they're working on, and we don't know anything about any of them except for titles.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would say we're probably more likely they did kind of talk about the idea that it's going to be a way of promoting Disney Plus and the streaming bundle in the US for that peak season. Because let's be honest, November and December and January, February are like peak Disney Plus period. That's when viewership is at its highest. They want to get you in, keep you in there, keep you locked in. So I think it's very much going to be a case of, like, here's what's coming over the winter. Here's a few little things coming maybe down the line to kind of keep you excited. And D23 is a whole other year away. So I think it could be good, but I'm just still on the lines of, I think that Investor Day last year was but also with that day, they were very much along the lines of making sure the shareholders and everyone was like, don't worry, guys, we've still got money coming in. We've still got plans coming in. We need the shares and everyone to feel like, Disney's still on top form. This year, I don't know if they necessarily have to go quite as deep on that one.
No, it's less look at all this cool stuff we got, and more look at us continuing to go, because 2021 has been a huge year for Disney Plus, particularly with the Marvel titles, but there have been other titles like Mighty Ducks and so on. So this really needs to be more of, yes, we still have stuff coming in, rather than hold on, the stuff is on the way, which it was last time.
I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we had something, maybe like a She-Hulk or a Moon Knight trailer or something, because if you're gonna, that would seem like a great place to drop them, because I think that would keep most people I think that would be like the core audience. They're filming it. There's been leaks this week. There's a kind of thing of, and it's still not too far away. I know November the 12th sounds a long way away, but it really isn't. It's only over 3 months away from the next one, and yeah, if they're still filming Moon Knight now, that would maybe line up. Maybe even, I mean, there's kind of the big question mark right now on Miss Marvel of when that's going to drop. So, I mean, we've already seen a little bit of that one, but things like that. Disney have kind of got to get us ready for all the new bits and pieces coming up. They've got the Beatles documentary coming just after that date. They've got the Hawkeye series dropping a couple of weeks after that one there. So I kind of go on the lines of, like, let's just look at what we've got coming up. It's probably more likely going to be that rather than the things much further deeper down the line. But I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good thing to have it. Also having it on a Friday with some big new releases, and it's just primarily about people getting people signed up for that holiday season. I mean, that's the Prime thing. Hopefully we get a few Star stuff as well that day, to kind of help boost it out. But yeah, I'm not expecting anything like a big Hulu announcement. This feels like this is much more aimed at the general public than investors or anything. And it's going to be a big promotion to kind of kick it off. Maybe like DC Fandom, that kind of thing, where they are primarily aimed at Disney fans that day.
Right, and that's why it's good that they renamed it or changed the name from Investors Day Call, which sounds like standing in front of a PowerPoint with graphs going up and down and numbers and things like this, whereas Disney Plus Day sounds like we're going to get trailers, we're going to get announcements, we'll get updates. And yeah, they definitely want to make sure that subscriptions, not so much new subscriptions at this point, though obviously that's always the push, but keeping those annual subscription holders in check, because November is about when most of the annual subscriptions come up for renewal.
It's funny because it's quite often, like with the quarterly results, a lot of us will be talking quite actively in the few days running up to it of our predictions and what we're expecting stuff. And a lot of people go, "Oh, they got drop trailers." I think it's like, yeah, they don't drop trailers. They don't tend to announce shows. It's more the business back end of all the business side of things. And this definitely Disney Plus Day seems more. It is definitely aimed more at the casual audience. So I'm just, while I would love them to do some big announcements, I'm like going, okay, everything on Disney Channel is going day and date and all this stuff. I don't know if that's the time they might do it. I mean, if they're going to do it, that's a good day to do it. But they've also got to. I actually feel like the Investors Day last year, they announced too much at once. I think it was a little bit. I mean, I know it was definitely a kind of look what we've got, it was like, well, you guys have. It took me 4 days of writing to get through everything. It was just, I just didn't stop, and it was like along the lines of, and they go, it was like going, they've announced way too much here. The average person is completely going to miss a load of this stuff because they're going to get. It's like, here's one. Oh, here's another one. Here's another one.
So it was much more of a shotgun effect. I don't think they expected most people to follow most announcements because it was less. Star Wars, Marvel. It was, okay, here's some stuff for Marvel fans, here's some stuff for Star Wars fans, here's for stuff for traditional Disney Channel fans, and things like that. And they really just needed to make sure there was something for everybody. Also, of course, last year they were coming off of the 2020, which was a really dry year for launches, and they needed to go, no, we have a lot coming. So they don't need to do that this year. So hopefully they kind of stick to the bigger projects, but also, get some of the smaller announcements, get those original series in there.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good thing moving forward. And I'm quite, if they can have a day, if they can focus a bit, because you have obviously next year they've got the D23 Expo, and they've announced that they're going to be doing a special preview thing at the Destination D event in Orlando in November. But it's like, but that's very much focused on the parks. And that's what's there. D23 is always a little bit different, but you got Star Wars Celebration next year. Hopefully, all these events will carry on as planned. But this year's a little bit dry, so it kind of makes sense for them. And also, just go digital. Put a show out. We see it with E3 and stuff. Just put them out there. Make them nice and short and snappy. Because that was the only issue I did think with how they did the Investors Day. I'd much rather this. Right at 2:00, we're going to do a 20-minute Marvel presentation. Oh, and at 4:00, there's a Star Wars 15-minute present. Just keep it short, keep it sweet, so that it can, rather than, if it goes on too long, you're going to lose your general audience. It depends on who they're going for, but if it's about, as you said, it's just signing up new people and keeping everyone engaged, they're going to want to keep it snappy.
Although, to be fair, you do need those smaller announcements or the less interesting announcements to let people have a break to go get some snacks and stuff too.
Or as I like to call it, the ESPN section of the Porsche. We're going to be talking about ESPN. I'm off. I'm just going to
that sounds like a good segue into the next topic of bundles, which you already mentioned briefly there.
Yeah. So during the quarterly investors call, Bob Chapek was asked a question about, would it not be easier, basically, and less complex, if you just offered one service rather than offering Hulu, ESPN Plus. I mean, they're even launching Star Plus in a couple of weeks in Latin America, which is like Star and ESPN Plus all put together. Now, one of the interesting things with this one is they actually, I'm going to read this one out. So he replied saying, there may be also some certain constraints that are under there. We could, at least from a short-term standpoint, limit our ability to do what long-term we feel was ideal. That's the key point there. In the long term, what they felt was ideal, but frankly, we don't know what ideal it is yet. I will say that we're extremely pleased in every market that we've launched with our direct-to-consumer services. We've exceeded our expectations in every market. So in terms of the way that we've approached the market so far, it's worked really, really well. Is there an opportunity for improvement by considering something different going forward? Possibly, but we're going to continue to learn. And as we learn, I'm sure we'll refine our offerings in the marketplace as time goes on. And I thought this was very open of the fact of kind of looking at this going, look, yeah, we know it's not ideal. We probably wouldn't have, right now, would they have launched it? Would they have launched Hulu? I don't think they would have if they were going into the market right now. I think they would have just gone with the major system, but they had to go with Hulu. I think right now we have got multiple tests going on. I think they're looking at Latin America, going, right, if that's what we've got down in Latin America, will that work? If it works in Latin America, we can maybe do something with ESPN and Hulu when we get full control over Hulu. Let's look at what's happening in India, where we've got everything all in one go, and that's doing extremely well. I mean, that's literally 40% of the Disney Plus subs is now from India, where they have sports integrated in with everything. Then in Europe, and in Australia and Canada, we've got Star, where we've got so if you actually look right now, they are doing multiple tests to work out where they can make the most amount of money, what people will do, and what's going to work. They keep saying about the fact that Star helps with the churn. They found that a lot less people are unsubscribing now that they added Star, and more people are watching. He did go on and say less people with the bundle are subscribing because they're getting what they want. Again, I think they're definitely finding for adults that there's not enough on Disney Plus to keep most adults engaged, other than Marvel and Star Wars. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. There isn't. There just is not enough on there to keep most adults going. For kids, it's great, but for adults, it's not. So the bundle isn't ideal, but until Disney get full control over over Hulu, which Comcast owned 33%, which is, I think in 2024, either company can activate to buy the other company out. For example, that's actually just happened with the NHL. They had the same thing in place with Disney streaming services, which runs ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and Hulu. They had to pay them like $350 million to buy that 10% stake out. The Major League Baseball has also got a similar contract due, I think, in 2027. So there's a kind of, these companies make these deals that at a certain point, one of them can trigger it to buy each other out. And I think, looking at like Disney right now, if they want to go fully on this stream stuff, they got to get these contracts out the way. They don't want to be paying excessively. But all this, talk about acquiring this and acquiring this, like they're actually owe quite a lot out to all these companies that they've kind of already made agreements with. So I definitely feel they've got to sort that out. But I do think that the Hulu situation is going to change drastically when Comcast pull their content off of Hulu. And live Hulu barely got any new subscribers in the last 3 months. And Hulu is really struggling to grow more than, I think they're literally losing subscribers. They're just not able to pull any more in. Now, I mean, they're lining up lots of new shows and lots of movies, but Hulu is, it is the stepsister right now. It's just not getting the same love.
Well, that and the market is a lot different than it was even a year ago, because you've got things like HBO Max and Peacock kind of starting to come into their own, and Hulu's competing with that new market share. So the fact that they're not gaining isn't too much of a surprise. Obviously, capitalist, you want to always show increase no matter what. Like,
yeah,
you could have 7 billion subscribers and people will complain that you don't have 8 billion, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that they're not churning is also kind of good. But it does feel like Hulu's on life support rather than really being its own generator. I don't know. We will have to wait and see what happens with the sale with Comcast, with them getting the 100%. Will they even keep Hulu? Will it become Disney Plus and Star like it is, or different branding, whatever they go with?
It's going to be difficult because they got multiple options where they could introduce adverts and merge them all in. That's a great opportunity for them to do that if they were to do like an ad version of Disney Plus, merge them all in and kind of blame it all on like merged. Personally, I wouldn't like to see the sports added because I view that is a niche market that they pay a lot of money for that, and that content. I just forever just remember just Sky Sports. Just every time you added anything sports on, the price just flew up, and it's like, well, if you're not interested in sport, but I can see from Disney Plus Hotstar having some sport, and we're seeing it with Peacock and I think Paramount Plus is doing it as well. They are starting to incorporate sports into their bundles as well. I think everyone is now looking at it going, look, you've got HBO, you've got Comcast, you've got Netflix, you've got Amazon. This multi-tiered approach is very different from anywhere else. And I don't think Hulu's got a lot of content, but if you start pulling away that ever additional content, it's going to start struggling. But also, you're going to end up with this thing of Disney Plus is so strong, but we've still got that problem in the US where it's still kind of the babysitting service.
It's definitely a babysitting service, and it will continue to remain that way until there is more content for adults on it, one way or another. You can only rewatch, Mandalorian or Loki or WandaVision so many times, no matter how good they are.
Yeah, I mean, just like looking at like the lineup, because there's been like the Television Critics Association press tour this week. We've seen stuff FX. We've also seen got ABC and National Geographic coming up. They did actually, Disney Plus did have one last year, though we don't know if they're going to take part again this year on this new one. FX, you got the Why the Last Man. You've got Dope Sick. You've got the American Horror Stories. You got new American Horror Stories stuff coming. You've got so many of these bigger shows dropping in, because they're dropping like 25, 30 shows a year. And then you get on all the Hulu originals like Only Murders in the Building and all these kind of things. Of, there's so much stuff coming of like, that's great for Hulu and having all that extra content. I think FX is really helping boost up Hulu with that extra content, but they're still kind of drifting in and out with the TV channel. And I don't know, it's just, it was just very interesting seeing how sort of somebody did put the question to Bob, and the idea of him just turning around and said, yeah, it's not ideal. It was very much like, ooh, that you're the top guy, and you're literally saying, yeah, the way we do it is not the best way of doing it, and we're looking to maybe make some changes. That's quite a big statement.
Yeah, and I've been saying this since the very beginning of when they bundled it. It's not the right bundle is the real problem. The Hulu on it is the ad-supported version. I think most people would prefer to get either go with the free version of Hulu and just deal with the ads, or pay and get rid of the ads. Not everyone wants ESPN as part of the bundle. I know you and I tend to be a bit dismissive of ESPN because we're not really sports ball people. I enjoy my hockey, you enjoy your wrestling, and that really is about the extent of it. But you can't undersell that it is actually a big draw for people. Sports is huge. Yeah,
I know people but there was this like track and field thing going on last week, and people kept going on about it. I don't know what it was, but
there was something going on in Tokyo. I don't know. But the bundle itself is just not great. You need options for Hulu with no ads. You need options for just Disney Plus and Hulu. You need options maybe for just Disney Plus and ESPN, or even Hulu and ESPN. I think that one might exist.
Yeah.
But just this one catch-all package, which doesn't really seem to appeal to any given market, wasn't the way to do it.
And also as well, I mean, the fact that you can get ESPN Plus in Hulu, you're like going, guys, yeah, you kind of want to put Disney Plus into the Hulu app. Unless I don't know, just very strange why they're doing it like the way they are, because I mean, for example, like Now TV over here, which was like the precursor to Peacock, they have a sports tier, a movie tier, and an entertainment tier, and a kids tier. They got like different tiers within the app, so you pay for whatever you want within it. And like Hulu, you kind of be like, it'd make more sense kind of offering a bit like that. But I don't know, it just seems to me that they got this legacy of Hulu, and they're really stuck with it. They want it, and they want to go forward, and they see it going forward, and they're really pushing up the TV. But they know that this, if they want to go up against Netflix and up against HBO, they can't keep doing what they're doing. People need a much more simplistic way of looking at it.
Yeah, I don't really have much more on it than that. There need to be better options. They need to be better value options, and also they might want to look at like add-on options rather than as a pure bundle, because some of us have like the 3-year plan for Disney Plus. I know both of us, for obvious reasons, we got the 3-year plan, in which case the bundle is completely pointless for us at all, because like I'm going to buy the bundle to get Hulu and ESPN when I'm already paying 3 years of Disney Plus up front. And like, nah, not going to do that.
I mean, I definitely feel like over the last, because I've started getting access to a lot of the Hulu content through Star, I do feel like, there's some good stuff here. But again, it even just down to like, this thing with FX on Hulu. Why they seem to be so strange with this concept of going, we've got all these different brands and we want them to stand out, like FX on Hulu and Star on Disney Plus. And it's like, why they're so obsessed with like trying to keep the old branding and the new branding at the same time. And I don't know, just a very strange. Why not just make FX, merge it in with Hulu and get rid of the branding? It just seems a very strange way of them doing it. Just moving. Yeah.
I do kind of get that one though, because FX does have a brand association with quality. There've been a lot of very good FX shows over the years, and generally speaking, if you see that it's an FX show, you can have a little bit more faith in it. Plus, as an adult, you can presume that it's not going to, punch down a bit. FX has generally been the place where you put the mature shows that aren't going to HBO, basically.
Yeah. And of course, internationally, FX isn't even a brand. So that was the other issue.
Right.
Where it's like for me, probably why for me, I was looking at, well, it's an old Fox brand. Why are you keeping it around? It doesn't make any sense.
it'd be similar for them to start marketing stuff here in the States. It's Sky
ITV.
on Hulu, and it's like,
Yeah.
cool, it's Sky. That's that British thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't care, and so you
No.
guys don't care that it's FX branding because FX means nothing to you.
No.
It's yeah.
But I do think the bundle is definitely going to be something to watch. But as I said, things might not change for a while. They might just be the way they have to keep moving forward. And until then, unfortunately, America is getting the lesser version of Disney Plus. It's probably one of the weaker ones. They did announce a load of international rollout for the next wave of Disney Plus. So in October, Japan is getting Disney Plus properly. At the minute, you've kind of got to go for a third party, and they've not got all the content there. So that'll be coming. In November, it's going to Taiwan. It's also going to Hong Kong and South Korea. And then they had to delay it, but they delayed like Eastern European and the Central European until summer of 2022. They're also then going to be moving into Middle East and also the South Africa, the first step into those sections. So it looks like they're revving up for that third wave of, you know, Africa and the Middle East is the next big wave. It's a shame for everybody in Eastern Europe. You know, we here in Europe got it, you know, last year. You know, we've had it, 15, 16 months. You know, why they're having to wait so much longer when we've already got it in some European countries. It's also like the Philippines is complete, and some other Asian countries still haven't got an announcement yet, which is a shame, you know. And it's also really funny with Philippines. They had Disney Life before everybody else. It was just like, why? You know, they had the streaming service before everybody else. They shut that one down. Yeah, no, you're going to be one of the last ones. So it's a shame that they're not getting it as well. But good for investors, you know, keeping that drip feeding. It gives them a nice big boost. Because they did announce the new update. They do this every 3 months. They give us an update. So as of the 3rd of July, they got 116 million subscribers worldwide. About 40% of them are in India, and that's just going to continue to grow. Massive, much higher than a lot of people were expected. I think a lot of people are like, oh, they've not added anyone. To over 10 million in 3 months. I mean, they did launch in India, in Thailand and Malaysia, and so they've had a couple of launches in that time. But that's still a big jump, and it's showing in with the numbers of how many people are tuning in for shows and stuff. You know, there are some really big numbers coming in for Disney Plus right now. So they just really had a really good quarter. I mean, a lot of people the shareholders and stock markets are all looking at what they're doing with the streaming. They're not interested in cinemas really at the minute, or the theme parks are back, great, but they're all watching the streaming.
Yeah, well, I mean, streaming is how most people have access to it now. Obviously, in the States, the theaters are kind of opening up. You know, it's off Free Guy this week. I've seen Jungle Cruise and Black Widow in the theaters. But throughout most of the world, it would be absolutely insane to even try to open the theaters. I mean, it's insane to even try and open them here in America, but we are a little bit nuts to begin with.
Well, let's get onto that topic. So we had an update on Disney Plus Premier Access. So Bob Chapek continued to say we're going to be looking at every single film case by case. He also seemed to be a bit of regret with Shang-Chi, saying that I think what he said was along the lines, I'm just going to bring this one up here because it's very interesting. His term, very much like, he's really kind of, So on Shang-Chi, we think it's actually going to be an interesting experiment for us because it's only got a 45-day window for us. So the prospect of being able to take a Marvel title to service after going theatrical for 45 days will be another data point to inform our actions going forward on our titles. Now, I want to make this very clear here. He says the word service. He doesn't say Disney Plus. He doesn't say digital. He doesn't say anything, because I've seen a lot of articles and a lot of jumping of the gun of this Disney, and I'm like, he didn't say Disney. He said service. What's that? What, you could assume he means Disney Plus, or I have reached out to Disney for confirmation, but he doesn't actually say the word Disney Plus. He says to service. So that could be anything. It could be digital, could be rentals, could be purchase. We don't know. Again, we were planning Shang-Chi. That was when we planned Shang-Chi, that title was planned on being in a much more healthy theatrical environment. And at this point, unfortunately, due to distribution agreements that we have done, and due to the practicality, of the last minute changes, it just wouldn't be possible. So what he's pretty much saying there is it was too late. It was too late to change the plan. They couldn't do anything about it. And also, more importantly, they made agreements with cinemas that they'd have 45 days exclusivity for Shang-Chi. His whole thing about planting, he said also, just planting your flag in the ground and going with it. They made this prediction back in just before May. Everything's going great. Everything's going to be awesome. Everything's going back to normal. And then we've all found out, no, it's not. It's not quite as simple as that. And he's still very much along the lines of case-by-case basis. There's been a lot of speculation and a lot of talk about, the lawsuit. And he did kind of mention very briefly, like, yeah, me and Bob have talked about it, and we've got deals with everyone. It's fine. And there's a lot of people going, oh, they haven't done this because he's trying to get the lawsuit. It's like, they ain't doing this because of the lawsuit. It's the simple thing is they made a deal, and they've got to keep with it with the theaters. And that's ultimately what, we've known this for a while. Premier Access is not dead. They're going to wait for Free Guy. If Free Guy, I think they were talking maybe 23 to 25 million, and that's theater only. We'll find out obviously Sunday on the details of that one. If this and Shang-Chi do not do well, then I think we'll have Premier Access then right through the winter. And then if that continues on, I think the trend is going to happen, because I still think they're very much along the lines of going, cinemas ain't going back to normal. There's just this, no movie is getting the numbers that they had pre-pandemic. People aren't going back the same way. People are not, there are restrictions. There's a lot of talk about mask mandates. I know in California and New York, they're bringing back in mask mandates to go to theaters. I myself, I don't want to go this week. I don't want to go to see Free Guy because of, there's going to be a lot of unvaccinated kids in there. It's kids' holidays, so I don't want to go in with the kids' holidays. I can't afford to get pinged to be stuck at home for 2 weeks. I've got a weekend away. I'm just trying to stay away from everybody. I don't want to go in and risk that. From next week, our rules change so that as a person that's double vaccinated, I wouldn't have to isolate if I've just been in contact with somebody. It's only if you test. So the rules are changing here, which would allow me to be a little bit more flexible. Now, I am looking at Shang-Chi going, the kids are going back to school that week. That might be a good week to go in. I'll go while the kids are all at school when there's a little bit quieter, which I would normally do anyway. But there's no chance I want to go and sit in a theater, like that at the minute. That's the way I'm looking at it. And yeah, I want to go see Free Guy. But literally the situation right now with everything going on is like, yeah, I'll just wait. If it was on Premier Access, I would have watched it today or yesterday, and I think that's the key thing. And they also did talk about Free Guy. It was interesting. Earlier in the week, the director was trying to put the spin on it that, they want to see it in cinemas and it's, and all this. And then Bob Chapek goes, yeah, no, it's due to contracts. And there's always been articles of like, they can't do this. They have this. Why Free Guy's not on this Premier Access ago? We've been doing this for 18 months for every Fox title that's come out. It's like, there's no difference to Free Guy than there's been for any other movie in the last 2 years. It's just the way that it is in the US until the HBO deal runs out next year. It's like, I was a little bit like, why are they all jumping on this? Like, they all forgot.
I guarantee they didn't forget. It just makes for a good headline.
Yeah, it was just I thought just really annoying going, why is Free Guy getting treated so? It's like the first cinema release in the last 2 years, and so therefore everyone's just like. But yeah, I did find this whole thing with Premier Access. It ain't going anywhere, folks. They are waiting. I bet Enchantico and what's the other one? Eternals will go Premier Access. I also suspect they can't do anything with West Side Story, but they could push it back if the numbers start flying up again in October, which is in September when all the kids start going back. They are watching this right now. Australia's gone back down into lockdown. There's a lot of expectations of while the vaccine is allowing it up for a lot of us, it's not quite going as they all thought. And I think we're going to have a really bumpy winter. And then going forward, we're just used to watching at home. People like it. You can't put the genie back in the bottle and go, well, you all have to go. It's like, yeah, but I don't like it. There is. This is like, it's not like we're all sat in I remember when video shops and all the rest of it, and people going, oh no, this is going to kill. It's not going to kill cinema. We were watching on a 14-inch portable TV in my bedroom. It's not the same as watching on a 70-inch screen with a sound bar, and it's just not the same experience.
I've definitely been pretty vocal about my thoughts on that, and I'll talk a little bit about it with Free Guy, but I promise I won't I won't go into another rant. I'm sure people have heard my rants twice now, so we don't
right. So I'm just looking at. I think that actually is all of our news. So we'll start with Free Guy since we're there anyway. So you went to see it. I haven't seen it, so we're going to keep it spoiler free. What did you think of it?
So first of all, before I actually talk about the movie itself, anecdotally, when I was going to buy tickets for this, my local theater chain, they let you pick your seat, so you can see in advance kind of how full the theaters are, right? I actually had a hard time finding a time slot that I was comfortable with because they had so many not full but fuller theaters, and I was actually kind of like, there's a lot of people at this one. I don't want to do that one. Oh, that one, the seats I like are already gone. So it actually had a hard time finding one. Obviously, that's just one theater. It's not a representation of what's going on across the country. But I was like, actually, Free Guy seems like it's doing pretty well in terms of drawing people, at least for the first weekend.
Yeah.
I did find a time slot that I was happy with, fortunately. I did enjoy this movie quite a bit. It was fun. It was stupid in a lot of ways. Ryan Reynolds was obviously having a lot of fun with it. Taika plays the bad guy in this, and he was obviously just having a great time with it. His villain was over the top and funny, and you love to hate him. So that was great. Not as many action scenes as I was expecting, actually, although the ones they have are really well done. There's a fun cameo, this isn't a spoiler, from Channing Tatum. I did not see him on the IMDb sheet, so that was kind of a surprise. It's right at the beginning of the movie. So I was looking at it, I was like, is that Channing Tatum? And it's like, wait, that is Channing Tatum. And
sure it's not? It wasn't the dude.
Oh, the dude was hilarious. The dude was not Channing Tatum. The dude was great though. I won't spoil what the dude is. It's not the Big Lebowski, for anyone wondering. No. But there was another cameo. I won't spoil who that one was, and I was just like, that's a great cameo right there. I will say though that the main male character in the real world, so not Ryan Reynolds, the guy played by the Stranger Things kid. Nothing against the actor. That character had nothing to do in this movie. It really felt like they were just kind of like, we need a love interest in the real world for the lead female characters, and that is literally your entire purpose, which I guess is a nice little reverse on the trope of the woman being only there as the love interest, but at the same time, I was like, we didn't need this character, get rid of him. Still, a lot of fun. I don't know if I'd ever actively go out and see it again. Like, I don't think I'll be seeing it when it comes out on video, but if I'm like watching TV and it comes up, I'd watch it then. That said, really enjoyable. Is it the movie you want to risk going to the theater for? Maybe not. It's a popcorn action comedy. Enjoy it for what it is. Don't need to rush out and see it, but watch it at some point, particularly if you like Reynolds' recent work. Hitman's Bodyguard, Deadpool, any of that stuff. It's in the same vein.
Well, I mean, for me, I've been a big fan of Ryan Reynolds ever since he did the pizza, two pizza guys in a shop or something.
Guys in a pizza, something like that.
So I've been following, Van Wilder. I've been a big fan. So I know what I'm getting from this movie. I know exactly what I want. But I'm at a point, if by the time, in a couple of weeks' time, I'll be like, well, I've probably only got to wait a couple more weeks for either to rent it, or it'll come to Disney Plus internationally anyway, because we don't have the problem that the Americans have with HBO. But for me, it's like, it shouts out as that's a movie I'd like. I mean, that even if this was Paramount or Universal, just the poster and everything would be like, I'm in. It's funny. I was playing a bit of Fortnite last night because you can play as the dude, and I was trying to do some on my little
yep.
Yes. So I was there's some missions in there. So you're playing in the game and you go to an ATM and Ryan Reynolds pops up and gives you a little video thing. So they've incorporated it. So I haven't played Fortnite for months, but it was like, oh, they put some Free Guy stuff in. I'll go and have a look. But yeah, so it's definitely cool. I'm gonna hold out for it. Again, it's just due to circumstances. I was gonna have to grab
it's a fun movie that knows exactly what it is. Like, one of my big complaints about Ready Player One back in the day was only a few years ago, was that it took itself entirely too seriously. It had this ridiculous plot, which is really just a vehicle for how many pop culture references can we cram into a 90-minute movie. And then it's like, no, this is a very serious film about anti-corporation. And it's like, no, this is a ridiculously stupid movie. Whereas Free Guy is very much, we're going to stick you into Grand Theft Auto, and one of the NPCs is actually going to fight back and gain sentience, and we're just going to run with that, and it's great.
I think as well, obviously with us being video game fans, it makes it a lot easier because I don't know, like my dad and stuff, I don't know if he would like get the gist of this because he wouldn't be really as familiar with like what actually happens in a video game. I think he still thinks I'm playing Super Mario Brothers. So he wouldn't, that's kind of the level of what it was in Pong kind of thing. So I think he might be a little bit lost on this kind of movie. And I think my wife might probably be like, yeah, no, it's not a movie for her either.
It is better in that regards than Ready Player One. Like it really does not lean into the references all that much. There are a couple, especially right at the beginning. You're like, oh, that's from Halo, and there's like a Fortnite reference. There's a couple other ones, but for the most part, it's its own world, and you don't have to be familiar with Grand Theft Auto or Fortnite or any game made in the last 20 years to really get it. You would just take it as this is a guy living in a fantasy world who doesn't realize it's a fantasy world, and then all of a sudden he does, and go from there. So it really is accessible if you are not a gamer. You can still just go in for it and enjoy Ryan Reynolds being wacky and having some good gunfights and some good quippy one-liners. Plus he plays a very good naive character, just like, everything's great, I'm super happy. He actually is very much like the Lego movie.
I was
Chris Pratt in the Lego movie. Everything's happy, don't have a good day, have a great day, that kind of attitude. And then just watching it disintegrate hilariously.
So now I am looking forward to it. As I said, had it been available, I would have watched it. And she's licking the microphone. But so there we go. So let's talk about some of this week's new Disney Plus originals. So let's talk now about Marvel's What If. So the first episode dropped on Wednesday with Captain Carter. I've also seen 2 more episodes, one with like Nick Fury and getting the Avengers together, and also another episode with Star-Lord, which I think will be next week's episode. But what did you think of What's If?
So I enjoyed it quite a bit. The animation was much more fluid than I was expecting it to be from the original trailer, which was very janky. And then the story itself wasn't super fantastic. It was literally just, what if we did Captain America: The First Avenger with Peggy Carter instead of Steve Rogers, and then shoehorning kind of an Iron Man kind of deal into it, which is a little bit weird, but it was well done. The action sequences were good, the story was good, and I think it was kind of smart for them to start with something that's only a little bit different from what we know, and let them do much bigger changes, and it kind of ease us into that idea. No, it's what you know, but different, and then move on to the no, you don't know anything about this, and it's very different, which is what I'm expecting from later episodes.
Yeah, I'll be honest, the Star-Lord episode very much is fresh. It's completely different. It takes a few little scenes from like Guardians of the Galaxy, but really twists them. It felt like something fresh. The Avengers one with the Nick Fury one took loads of scenes from when he was putting together the team and very much changed them because of what happened in them. But it's that kind of thing of, they felt very much, whereas Captain Carter kind of felt like you said, like a super speed run through Captain America: First Avenger, with then a really weird ending which brought her into the future, which was very different.
It was supposed to be the parallel of Captain America waking up in the modern era and being totally confused, whereas she seemed to handle it much better. And I think they handled it okay because it still had the Avengers like opening the Tesseract, but it was her popping out rather than finding her frozen body in the Arctic or whatever.
And also, she is actually going to be featured in. They pretty much said every season. I think they've fallen for that character, and she's going to be featured a lot, or at least once a season going forward, which I'm not opposed to. I'm not opposed to. It's kind of almost giving us Captain Britain through the sideway. Kind of, that's their way. Whether or not they do it in real life or something like that could be a way of doing it. But yeah, I thought I did find the animation. It took me a while to get used to. I wasn't so keen on it. As I got more used to it, it stopped being so jerky. I don't know what it was. It took me a while. I think by the time because I watched 3 episodes in a run. By that point, I was I kind of got used to the style. But yeah, I think because of like Bad Batch and stuff. I kind of got used to that like style, and this is so different to that.
Yeah, and I think it's a style that works really well in action sequences. Like you get a good smoothness and kinetic feeling to the action sequences in this. Like Peggy just beating up the Nazis or the Hydra agents for a while was fun to watch. It doesn't do as well in the talking sequences or the explaining what's going on sequences, because you're much more aware of how they're animating it. Whereas with the actions, you can just go, all right, yeah, enjoy the moment.
And also, I mean, getting the real actors and stuff in from the movies is great, but it's not essential. And I do feel like this has really kind of opened it up for them to kind of, if ever a character leaves or an actor doesn't want to do it anymore, they've kind of got a way of carrying on this, kind of a way of keeping it going. It's like literally, I just had a Lego set of a future episode that I've just built before doing this, just a bit of, while watching something. And it's like, you can carry on with Tony Stark and you can carry on with Iron Man without actually having Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, or any of them really. I don't think Chris Evans was playing Captain America there either. But they did get a surprising number of voices back. I mean, Sebastian Stan was playing Bucky, and obviously they didn't get Tommy Lee Jones back in. They kind of wrote his character out. But a lot of the voices were the originals. I think they even got Toby Jones in there to play the scientist. He had like 2 lines.
Well, I think the thing is, especially with animation, is they're much more likely to be able to do it. They can do it from home. Good setup, and especially with the lockdowns and all the rest of it. Of just like, it's a lot easier for them to do it. They can do this much easier, much cheaper. The budgets for this is a much less, and I think it's more of a case of, I think it's more like, yeah, you like making all those movies, all that money on those movies. Yeah, well, if you just do a couple of lines for us, we'll just pay you a little bit. But it just keeps you on little good books. And then you got a load of other people. Yeah, I'll just do anything Marvel. It's just a lot of fun. And yeah, I just feel like that's definitely a cool thing with them.
Yeah, and I am all in for more Haley Atwell content. She was great as Peggy Carter through all the movies. The show Agent Carter was kind of a misstep, but that wasn't her fault. They didn't really know what they wanted to do with that show.
That's like a new timeline now, and is it? It doesn't actually exist, so it's not. They didn't. Yeah,
it's kind of unclear where Agent Carter falls into things.
Well, I think
it falls into it at all.
I think essentially anything other than WandaVision is no longer considered canon. But then, of course, this show, What If, is canon, but then they're in different timelines. It doesn't really apply anymore. So it's very strange.
It is strange, and they're going to kind of have to. They're going to have to put an official thing onto it at some point. At least this came after Loki, where they properly introduced like the multiverse and like, nope, these are the fracture points, and these are your nexus events. And at least with that, having seen Loki, you can now go in What If and go, okay, this is the nexus event. Peggy Carter stayed in the room when Steve was getting the injection rather than going to the observation gallery. Now, how that changed how the guy ended up like blowing up the bomb before the injection happened wasn't really clear, but
yeah, I mean, I think I've always loved the comic books of this series. It's always been one I loved. I love the fact of being able to walk into a comic book store with my mate. He would be, he'd be buying comic book out. He'd be buying like 5 or 6 a week. Whereas I would be like, I don't buy them like that. So I always liked the What If because I could pick one up. And it didn't make any difference I've always liked that book. So this is kind of one of those ones of me like, oh yeah, this is actually a comic book that I've got history with. And I would say I've got history with for 25 years of every time I would walk into a comic book store, I'd end up walking out with one. Because I might not go in them very often, especially now because there's hardly any of them around. But I flick on them much easier when I'm watching. If I bring out the Marvel Unlimited app, it's like, if I see a new What If, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool, because I know I'm going to be invested in that time the same. And I always view them, and you kind of reach the end and go, oh, if it was rubbish, it was rubbish, but it doesn't have any impact moving forward. And so I'm definitely in on this What If. This one's gonna be around for a while. I think this one they've cracked. I mean, the amount of merchandise they've got for this, when they start making hot toys out of stuff like this, then that they realize they were onto a winner with this one.
When you get multiple Lego sets, you're doing pretty well.
I've been trying to get the Hydra Stomper Lego set, and it just didn't arrive. And so I've got the Hydra Stomper pop vinyl. I do really like and there's so much. Yeah, no, don't get too much caught up on these ones because there's going to be another batch of episodes of stuff coming later down the line. But it's nice to see them stuff out in shops before, rather than like with the Bad Batch and stuff where they're all out months afterwards. But yeah, I really enjoyed What If. I thought it was a really good show.
It's also nice to not really have to worry about spoilers so much as well. I mean, obviously we don't want to spoil the end of the show more often than not. We want to let you guys experience it as you can. But, if something gets spoiled, it's not that big a deal because it's not some earth-shattering Thanos snap at the end of Infinity War where it's like, this changes everything. No, this literally changes nothing. Yeah. This is just
there's definitely something fun coming up in the next episode with Thanos.
I'm
going to say. But there we go. So that is What If. Again, this one's definitely going to be one that we'll be talking about moving forward. We also had the finale of Star Wars: The Bad Batch. What did you think of that one?
So this is my common refrain. From a production perspective, it looks fantastic. Like, this was a beautiful episode. They did a really good job of setting the tone. The music was really, really good. And then the story itself was better than the average Bad Batch episode, but it's still not great.
Yeah. For me, I did enjoy this like 2-part finale. I thought that worked well. I like that they cleared up the whole idea of what's happening with Camino and why we don't never see it ever again. I think that was actually quite a good idea for them to, because it was such a big part of the Clone Wars and Bad Batch, and then after this Bad Batch, we never saw it ever again. Well, now we know why. I mean, they also made it up, but I do like how they've kind of, putting these lines in, because, the first 3 movies just went off and put on them on every single other planet on the, rather than using the planets we already knew and set everything on these different places, and then never went back to them. And then they're doing the same thing with the new trilogy where they went off to all different new planets, and that's definitely a thing moving forward with it all. And I thought it was solid. I thought it was, and I like the fact that like Crosshair kind of being involved in it and kind of being, brother and sister and stuff. I did think that worked well, but I wasn't blown away with it. But then I've been blown away with the whole series.
Yeah. No, the only thing with Crosshair that's bothering me is, they very specifically like, no, I had the chip removed. I'm not being influenced by the Empire. This is my choice. But they had that whole thing in like one of the early episodes, 2 or 3, where it's like they're doing like shock therapy and amp up the power to the inhibitor chip. And so it wasn't doing squat to him because he didn't have the chip, but they made a whole plot. And I might need to rewatch that to figure out what's going on.
Unless he thinks he doesn't have it.
Yeah, I don't know.
That might be. Yeah.
Like I mean, that's a possibility. He could think that he's had it removed, but he still actually does have it. I don't know.
Well, he must be able to. There must be some control there because he has shown, like shooting the Empire and helping them. He didn't just flat out just shoot them and escape himself, because he could have done.
So there's questions there around Crosshair, and that's probably the most interesting story at the moment, is figuring out what Crosshair's deal is, and that's hopefully something they lean into in season 2.
Yeah, it's fun. We know we've got a second season coming. And generally with these shows, they start ramping up once we get, they've got a lot of this stuff out the way. I still feel like this was literally like we have Hunter, Crosshair, Omega, and then we got the big guy, Wrecker, and then we've got the other, and then we got Echo and Tech, who just Echo and Tech could get killed off, and I don't think anyone would have noticed.
Which is a big problem, because Echo was a big character before Bad Batch. He was one of the key characters of Clone Wars. Now, granted, he wasn't in every episode. He only showed up here and there, but that entire squad that he was part of, is a running theme throughout the entire series, and people got quite attached to those characters. And he's literally just like, oh yeah, that's the guy from Clone Wars, isn't it? And, and I felt like I was continually being reminded of that. Now, to go off on a completely different tangent, both of us have done diving before, so scuba diving.
Yeah.
What did you think of that ending? Because I was like, you literally did a rapid ascent from 2 kilometers down in a pressurized air tube.
The only thing you've got to remember is just before that, they had a massive underwater dinosaur trying to eat them. So I think, and they're all clones living with great big monsters. So I think the concept of scuba diving rules to go right out the window.
I mean,
the fact that she risked everything to rescue a robot. The whole kind of thing at that point, I'm going, what? It's like, yeah, okay. It might have been a bit better if they were in a pod or something and just kind of got out that way. But yeah, it's like you say, we all know, maybe the water density on that planet is different, you know.
I would hope so, because I was looking at the screen going like, you guys just got the bends really bad.
Yeah.
But obviously it's Star Wars. You are allowed to take some liberties. And that's not great.
Yes, yeah, but it is that kind of funny thing of like there's the whole thing you're like running across it and the glass is breaking and the monsters are going, okay, so we're doing the Meg now, are we?
And the monster, of course, decides to attack the reinforced part of the connector port rather than literally any other part, which is made out of glass, and it probably could just break through by swimming hard, let alone biting it.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I was blown away with it. We're at a point now where we've pretty much run to the end of the Friday episodes for new shows. I think we've got Love Victor maybe next week, but we're done. I mean, after this point onwards, we're moving straight into Wednesdays being the new TV show episodes, and then Fridays is becoming like shorts and movies. So we're seeing a bit of a shift there. But it is a bit funny with it all. We also watched a new episode of Love Victor. This one was more of, again, a bit more of him kind of being more happy being gay and just kind of, helping a friend out. Obviously, they start sort of bonding a bit, but also, you get to see him being open and free and like without Benji. And I thought that was quite good. I thought it was a really solid episode. I enjoyed like the mum kind of being quite supportive with it all. It was just a nice, solid episode. I think obviously we're leading into next week. I mean, we didn't see anything of the other characters, or all the side characters all got completely left out of this episode. They didn't even get, none of them were even in it.
Yeah, but it was important for them to have Victor processing a potential breakup. I mean, this is his first real breakup. Yeah, he had the girlfriend in season 1, and that kind of imploded. But she wasn't cool with it, but she at least acted cool with it.
But he wasn't really into her. That was the thing. He
didn't have that emotional bond that he obviously had with Benji. And so it was important for them to focus on him processing those emotions for the first time. And I am very glad that he spent this entire day with Raheem, and they had a will they, won't they moment towards the end. And I'm very glad that they didn't, for their sake. Because it would have very much been a rebound moment and completely screwed up their friendship down the road. So glad they didn't do that. The rest of the episode was like, okay, we're just gonna fudge it a little bit, and they managed to get into a bar despite obviously being high schoolers. But
let's be honest, they're US high schoolers where they look 40. That is the issue.
They're U.S. high schoolers in a television show, so of course they are 40.
Yeah, they're all already like in the at least in their 30s in any, because you do look at them sometimes going, really? They think that is all. It's like, I know my high school, none of us look like that.
I've blocked most of my high school out.
But yeah, so that's definitely again a great show. Really enjoying it. Definitely. It's going to be interesting when Diary of a Future President season 2 comes out next Wednesday. We're getting the host season. There's some elements of that in there which kind of, was a bit like a Love Victor light. That's all I can say because I can't talk about it properly yet. But we'll talk about that one in 2 weeks' time. So that is going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun.
I mean, they were setting up some Love Victor-esque plots in season 1, so that's not exactly a spoiler that they would continue doing that. Just to set expectations, since they are dropping the entire season, I know you've had a chance to see the whole thing, but even if I was like super interested in Diary of a Future President, there's no way I'd be able to watch the entire season between Wednesday and Friday, or Wednesday and Saturday for this. So we'll probably hit like the first handful of episodes.
Yeah, well, look, actually, next week we're actually got a special episode where
right.
me and Mo talk about the 6-month kind of anniversary of Star. We have already recorded it, so it's all ready to go next week because I'm away for the weekend. So yeah, we'll be back.
Yes, I forgot about that.
So you've actually got a week and a half to watch all 10 episodes.
No, like, I think I'm still going to aim for 3, and 3 might be optimistic based on what I remember from the first season.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that one there. Also, this past week, I did watch the first 2 episodes of season 11 of The Walking Dead. Now, you might be thinking, what? Here in the UK and in, I think it's in the Netherlands and Italy and a few other countries, season 11 is actually going to be a Disney Plus Star exclusive. Not Star original, but a Star exclusive. We're going to be getting new episodes every Monday for the 11th season, and there'll be 3 batches of 8 episodes dropping weekly. The first one is dropping on Monday the 23rd. That's the first episode, and then we're going to get them afterwards. So I've seen the first 2 episodes. I have been on a complete binge of The Walking Dead this year. When they announced it was coming to Disney Plus, I started on Amazon. By the time it launched on Disney Plus beginning of last year, I think I was on to season 3 or 4. I have since then managed to binge my way right through till season 10. So I have put in, I think I worked out about like 150, I think I'm up like 140, 150 episodes I've plowed through over the last 4 or 5 months. So I've been some days doing 5 or 6 episodes a week. A day. So I've been loving it. I have completely fallen for this show. And so there's kind of this weird figure. Yeah, I get to talk about this new episodes every week now. Very different show to anything else that's on there. Loving it. I'm loving the whole zombie vibe. I've never really been into this stuff before, but there's something with this show has just clicked. I'm just enjoying it. And I think because I haven't had like obviously 10 years of build up to it. I've literally just fallen for it this year, and then like so I haven't had that big long wait in between like everybody else between like seasons 10 and 11. I'm like, mine was like a day. So it wasn't such a big thing, but I have the benefit of binging where you can do that. So I said, let's watch these 2 episodes, loved them. This is a great kind of thing to move forward for us here in the UK. There's a lot, it's all over the radio. It's, they are promoting it heavily. It's a big show, primarily over here that has been like used as a way of getting people in on Disney Plus. So it's going to be a lot of talk about it, but we're also going to be getting American Horror Story and a whole load of different shows and stuff. So we're kind of in that lull. I was like the other night, I turned on my wife said, "I'm gonna put something on TV." And I'm like, "Well, normal TV's got nothing on. Everybody's like ran out. They're all like, it's the middle of the summer. We're not putting anything new on. In 3 weeks' time, they'll all start. All the new seasons, all the new shows will start." But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this one to see how all this goes. But yeah, if you're a Walking Dead fan and you're in the UK, you're going to need Disney Plus. So that's definitely a thing. Yeah, and I'm just trying to think if we did have any other ones. Yeah, I think that was it. Wasn't it? Did you watch anything else?
I caught the Chip and Dale episodes. Nothing really special to say about them. I'm enjoying the series, but same thing. 3 episodes at a time really is the limit for me. Unlike The Walking Dead, I don't think I could binge 5 or 6 or 10 episodes of this a day, even at 7 minutes an episode. Now, granted, I can't even binge The Walking Dead to begin with, so
yeah,
stretch. I also watched the Goofy stay-at-home.
Oh
shorts.
yes,
those were a lot of fun. It was good to see classic Goofy again.
Yeah, I kind of the only complaint a lot of people had was they were too short.
Yeah, they're very short.
And also there was a little bit of a feedback in the group going, why are they doing it on the pandemic? It's like, well, because they were all stuck. The animators were stuck at home when they did a little, they did something. It would have been nice to kind of had maybe just like maybe one short about it and bit like 5-6 minutes like the original ones. But I like the animation. I thought it was great. It's just a lot of fun. It was just fun. I did think they were a fun little thing, but that was about it. You would watch these once and you never go back.
I could see them being added to the rotation of videos that you see at the parks, particularly in like the cafeterias or on well, I guess the Magic Express is gone now, but yeah. the various places where you would see little videos like this and just kind of insert them in between other shorts, because a lot of those places, like you go to the All-Star resorts, you go to the cafeteria, they've got the monitors up and they're showing.
We We used to have that channel in the morning when we were getting ready to go to the parks.
Mm-hmm.
It was just
exactly.
short. My wife loved it. That was a part of us being on site. Was what it's like. I mean, why do we were here? We just watched. It's because it gets me in the mood to go to the park.
I can understand that. It's kind of like pre-gaming the parks, and I could see them inserting these little shorts in between as like the divider between 2 episodes or whatever. And it's just, here's Goofy showing you how to put on a mask to go and get your mail.
Yeah, they were good ones. I'm trying to think. That was it. Again, there's been a lot of content this week, and I've been watching a few things that we'll be talking about in the coming weeks ahead. But yeah, just a overall, just nice bit of nice mix up of different content, which is what is always great. And on that, there again, thank you very much. Next week, I said we're going to have a podcast episode where me and Mo talk about the big difference that Star has had 6 months on, what we think's worked well, what we think hasn't, some of our favorite Star originals, some of our least favorite ones, talking about the future of Star and what it all means stuff. But it was just we thought, well, it'd be just nice to kind of have a full deep discussion like 6 months on about how much it's just like it's a bit of a spoiler. We both have pretty much said Star changed our Disney Plus experience just overnight. It's completely changed it. So you'll want to check that one out. I'm doing a live Q&A tomorrow on YouTube, where I'll be answering questions of YouTube channel members and patrons. So if you are a member, go and check out the posts about the questions. There won't be one next week, so I won't be able to do one. And yeah, then there'll be new videos and stuff again as right through next week. And on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We shall see you guys soon. Later.